Hello, Mr. Kamal sir. Thank you very much really for joining and really appreciate your time for this discussion.
Thank you.
Great. So as you know, the context is that at the FDPPI, we are this year also we are participating, organizing, conducting the Indian Data Protection Summit 2022. Yeah, this is the third year in row successfully we are conducting with active participation from people like you. This year, really, we wanted to take some of the subject matter experts, industry leaders, kind of a discussion with them, and then make this discussions, these recordings available to our audiences for their benefit. That's the idea. So as we know that the today's topic with you, I would like to really listen from you. Rather than kind of typical question and answer session, your experience and what's your really what's happening from the UK's perspective after their Brexit, and they are talking about new UK GDPR with the kind of existing Data Protection Act of 2018, which is already there. So this is the basic idea. I hope that would be fine with you, Mr. Kamal sir.
Yeah, of course. I mean, one of the things that I've been focusing lately is that, of course, there are new rules and regulations coming into play, and various other things. First of all, I want to give a huge thanks and opportunity for the FDPPI and yourself, to give me this opportunity to talk about several things. I mean, the topic subject itself is quite big, but just to minimize this, what I've done is
Mr. Kamal sir, if I can request you, really sorry, would also like to introduce you very quickly about yourself, about your organization, about your
Okay.
I'm really sorry. Thank you very much.
That's okay. Yeah. As you already know, my name is Kamal Acharya, currently consulting director for Digitech Confidential, UK-based, serving customers in the UK as well as in India. Vast experience background working in the civil sector for the past 27 years, and now assisting all new startups, small businesses to do with general data protection regulation, compliance, guidance, and bespoke training. But we focus on various training issues, participation in the seminars, participation in the conferences is quite important to share the knowledge, practical knowledge, and also good guidelines to get from other colleagues, who are in the field of data protection.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Is your business is focusing on products or services, Mr. Kamal sir?
So we are providers of services, for small businesses. We're not particularly that is a service provider. That we come in where people are finding it themselves confusing or daunting task. To what this GDPR means, what does it impact for them, their staff, their business, etc. But we take that burden away and create a climate of confidence, within them to say, let us take that burden away. Don't worry about it. We will provide the service. And that is more important because we work with them, with individuals, with the companies. Doesn't matter what smaller size. Some people might think, that it's only a one-man show, but they might have 10 people working with them. It doesn't matter because that is what we are here for, to give them the confidence, that we will work with you and provide the service. So they don't and create the documentation, explain to them from start to end. It's like holding hand journey through the processes.
Excellent. I understand. Actually, it's very much needed. Basically, the kind of experience what you hold, it will be useful to the definitely the startups what you talked about.
Yeah.
So coming back to our main point of discussion today, can you kindly share the latest updates on UK's stand on UK GDPR and the much talked about the new privacy law?
Okay, the UK GDPR is, I think many of the colleagues might be aware, that the ICO 25 system is already in place, is in consultation, and the consultation is going to be open because I don't think it's going to be diluted um, version, but what it is going to empower individuals more. That's what the Information Commission Office is trying to do. But if it will be kind of inappropriate for me to go into more detail because there isn't much because it's under consultation, nothing has come out right now.
Hmm.
But what I've done is for this station particularly, I've focused on a little bit about the penalties, the area, and uh, as people think that only huge companies get fined for breaching the data protection, etc. So what I've done is, if it's appropriate, to focus on just to see what happens to the individuals. Have they ever been fined? Big companies, there is a headline, but there isn't a headline for smaller ones.
Yeah.
And again, I can give you some examples, like, for example, a former health advisor has been prosecuted for obtaining personal data of service users, um, and also a gentleman, another person working with another organization, like a local council. He stole a wealth of information for his own benefit, and another one, like reviewing patients' records hundreds of times. Um, and then also at the same time, the programming officer, like coding officer, charged with accessing medical records.
Okay.
So these are the individuals, and there are several different examples that we can talk about. But if I just focus on particularly just the health one, for example, um, as I mentioned, a former health advisor was prosecuted for obtaining personal data of service users, you see, in an NHS Foundation Trust. Now, NHS is National Health Service, which is the biggest, is like hospital trust, and he accessed the patient's medical records in the course of his employment without any business need to do so. You know, he had viewed patient records over 14 times, or 14 patients, who were known personally to him, like a relative or distant person or friend or something like that, between June and December of 2019, without consent of his employer. Um, and then when during the investigation that they found that there was something amiss, because when an audit was being taken, um, at that time they started tracking him, what the person was doing. I mean, it is in the public domain, so obviously, the former health advisor, I'll just call him Mr. O. I have got the full details here, but don't want to breach myself
Yeah,
about things.
excellent, excellent. And you are
Yeah.
talking about the breach by individuals.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. I understand.
Yeah. And that is more important, because I could be in breach of
Right,
discussing about. Of
right,
course, it's in the public domain; anybody can access it. There is
right.
no problem. But I have, because we are talking about individual breaches, how it happens, and this is easily being done here while while we are having a conversation. So what he did was, he was found by his senior supervisor why he was accessing these details, and they were found to be friends, relatives, where he was trying to look at the intimate details, and he was taken off his work, suspended, and the police were called in. He was presented to the magistrates court, which is a local court. He pleaded guilty to 6 counts of unlawfully obtaining personal data in breach of Section 170 of the Data Protection Act 2018. So as a result, he was ordered to pay £250 compensation to each data subject,
Oh,
totaling to £3,000.
okay.
And one of the things that this case is remind of people, just because your job may give you access, to other people's personal information, especially sensitive data, then such as health records, doesn't mean that you have a legal right to look at it. And such behavior is extremely distressing to the victims or the families and friends, and not only invasion of the privacy, but losing trust and confidence within the NHS service. So the other thing, what the ICO also commented, that they would urge the organizations to remind their staff. Again, it's the issue about training, how much data you can look at it and how much data you should not be looking at it, and the governance responsibility, how to handle people's data sensitively and responsibility. So that's one of the cases. The other case that I discussed about, there was somebody else who worked in a local council.
Yeah.
Like he stole a wealth of information, and yeah, they discovered that before Mr. M, um, Mr. M stole personal information belonging to 394 service users. That's a huge amount.
Absolutely.
And emailed them to a private email address, over 34 emails, so he could reportedly contact them for the purpose of his new business.
Right.
You see, he was trying to set up his own business to provide the services, and he was taking medical conditions, details of care being provided, financial details, record of debts if they had any, and so the council started to become suspicious, as one of the person contacted to say, um, um, can I talk to Mr. M? And as he wanted my brother's date of birth, etc. Um, uh, Luckily, coincidentally, Mr. M wasn't on his desk, but the colleague took it up and reported the matter to the senior management, because there is a system, luckily, to report such breaches. Um, so he was young. Mr. M was just 43. Just in his career, he was charged for breaching his duties under Section 55 of Data Protection Act. He pleaded guilty at magistrates court, and now listen to this. He was given a fine of just £160 with additional 364 to pay in court cost, and victim charge £20 victim charge. Now that is ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
just a very small amount. But what happens is that his career is finished, because he will not be able to, the trail of any charges in the court follows for the rest of the life. It remains for as long as he is there. And so what is the learning from it? That everyone needs to understand the consequences of taking people's personal data, personal information with them, even when they leave the job role even. So this guy, he took 394 service users information. He left the job to start up his own services, and then this is how he was caught out.
Right.
And personal data is protected by law, and employees should not be helping themselves at all for the information if they decide to set up a new business or move into a better position. So as he stole the personal data, after leaving, he was also confronted about it, but because he had already resigned, the council could not take any disciplinary action against the person. But what they did was a very good thing, was reported him to the ICO, Information Commission's office, who rightfully with the frustrated workers and with the council. They took him to court, and this is what was the outcome. So it is one thing that the ICO said, that is never disrespect data protection rules for personal reasons, illegally accessing, misusing. In this case, anti-social care users do not expect private information provided to the council in confidence, because there's so many sensitive information about themselves, but despite the warnings, um, some breaches do occur,
Right.
One more interesting thing that I came across. The reason I'm talking about this, because people always, I think I already mentioned in the
Right.
start, people already talk about only huge companies that are being fined or been found out about data breaches. But this is, we are talking about individuals. So I'm giving you two
Right.
or three separate examples. The other one was a former administrator, again, in a social care partnership. This is like a linked up services where they provide with special needs children, special needs adults, and all that. And an individual accessed 279 times in a 3-week period, trying to seek all the information, and she did not have any permission or any authority to go and view anybody's data or any personal information. So she did not have permission from the patient nor her employer, who is the data controller.
Right.
And to look through the personal records, she pleaded guilty. She was taken also, she was found out, taken to the magistrate's court, and similarly fined, and but she lost all the benefits that she could get. And as I said, she would not be getting any jobs. It gets very, very difficult. So the other thing is like a coding officer. I talked about, that uh, somebody who is into programming, experts into IT, and because they know what they are doing. So one of the coding guys, what he did was he was again, um, sorry, she was a coding officer for a huge trust, again, hospital business area. And she went and rifled through her neighbors and former friends' medical records,
Oh,
and so um, basically her job had nothing to do with accessing these records, if you come to think of it. And she just appeared to have taken the breach one step further, by disclosing very, very sensitive information about a baby,
oh,
of the next door neighbors and her family friend. And so these are the kind of things people do, and they were caught out, and obviously they were again found um, the guilty. The other one, last one, I would say, um, nursing auxiliary person, they accessed again a patient's record, and again found guilty and breached. And she also accessed patient's record belonging to her relatives, so of knowing, because they know they are in hospital, so they wanted to know what is going on and all that kind of thing. So they what all these what they call it, perpetrators, or who people who individuals who breach, have no authority or legitimate reason to access any records. Anybody has no don't have any legitimate reason. That's why there is when we talk about the principles of it, legitimate interest, there
right.
is no legitimate interest, and in order to just satisfy their own personal curiosity, that is why they just access these things and have a breach. Is this action cost them like hundreds of pounds each, and costing them their jobs, their reputation,
Yes.
and social relationship, and of course, the warnings is there for employees who, in many cases, are experienced and capable of are getting into serious trouble
Right.
and for losing their jobs, usually over very little or little more than a personal curiosity, because I want to know what is happening with my neighbor. Why is he or she in the hospital, or what is happening, or my cousin, and they have no right to know
Yes.
highly sensitive information, and similarly, the a practice manager at a GP, general physician. We have huge practice managers here, and they are, because they are patients of anything from minimum 5,000 to 10,000 patients, in a GP practice. A manager was fined for sending personal data to her own email account without authorization, and he was then found out by the IT system, which blocked him because they wanted another code to access further files, sensitive files. So this was, of course, another one. Consultancy companies, they also do similar things. There was one case. Recruitment consultant emailed personal data of approximately 100 clients, potential clients,
Right.
to a personal email address before leaving the job,
Oh,
so
okay.
that they can start headhunting and
Yes.
provide them. They were also found out, and so similarly, the individual breaches there are so many of them, and that has not been talked about. And I thought I will share it with you, because this is something important that people should understand and realize, that data breach is not as easy, and you can just access the records. But when an audit is done, an auditor is there, he or she will look into thoroughly going
Right.
through
Right.
various records. And if the systems is in place, like particularly the IT one, where the companies have put specific measures of authorization, and at the same time giving access to individuals. So I hope this has given you a little flavor of the preventing employee data breach. Ideally, employees will now be focusing on preventing rather than when it comes to employee data handling. So prevention is the biggest important thing, and that is why when we do the training, when we do try to explain the processes within the flow chart, within the circumstances and
Right.
everything else, I think that is more important, for individuals to understand that what are the employees up to, what are they doing, whose data they are accessing, are they buying any data from anywhere? Just be careful. That's all I will say.
Excellent, excellent. I really thank you very much for the kind of insight what you had brought in. Obviously, you are right that the whole world is looking at the kind of data breaches, by the organizations, right?
Yes.
And what kind of penalty or fine they had gone through.
Mm.
And I think very, very little focus has been given to an individuals. I think you brought it
Yeah.
out in a very big way with the 4 case study what you have shared.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have also taken note of it without, getting into breaching the privacy, because it's quite interesting. And ideally, the summary, what you are trying to say, that these are all happening because of, right, the awareness or the training issue, that whoever is handling the
Absolutely.
sensitive personal data,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and he or she need to be very clear about the principles of legitimate interests they need to be really
Yes.
aware of,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
the governance mechanism need to be so strong within the organization to
Yeah.
catch these kind of small fishes, if we can call so,
Yeah.
because finally these are all the one which is going to really get that organization into a bigger trouble.
Yeah.
And of course, at the individual levels, that individuals need to be aware of:
Mm.
one, it might lead them into a kind of loss of their career; two, if
Yeah.
they are kind of government official or a public related agencies, they might lose of
Exactly.
loss of their career benefits,
Yeah.
loss of their reputation, the loss of their, social relationship and so on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This needs to be really great, sir. Thank you very much for bringing.
And also like you mentioned, the organizations
Yeah,
model the trust, the confidence they try to create within the communities,
yeah, yeah.
that is broken, and that
Yes,
that is becomes a big question.
yes,
The loss of business,
yes.
it could be disastrous.
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
I really like that last bullet, that what you talked about, the data auditors need to be
Yes.
really look into these kind of areas, because the data audit itself is a new concept, right?
Yes.
Which has recently emerged, and
Mm.
really a great to listen from you. Thank you very much, sir. Having said that, I just wanted to listen to your views that what are the challenges from your perspective the Indian companies need to go through to align with the multiple laws within the EU. Today, what we are talking about, 134 plus laws across globe. When I
Yeah.
come to European Union, again, within European Union, we are talking about multiple laws, right? There is
Yes.
a e-privacy law, there is a new
Absolutely.
GDPR, there is a Data Protection Act, there is a new
Yeah.
GDPR coming in. What are the challenges? And from your perspective, can you please throw some light on it?
I think the biggest challenging is understanding the focus of what is it that they will be requiring. Um, Luckily for UK, the ICO is giving a lot of guidance, and similarly, the EU GDPR is giving a lot of guidance that this is what should happen. This is how you should approach new. More and more new training issues and suggestions are coming out from the ICO itself,
Hmm.
and also the lawmakers. Uh, the best is I would say the ICO has currently started giving out brief training videos and everything else, which are excellent. The thing is that at least organization will find out what are they wanting to do, and they have a helpline. Believe me, various times I've called the helpline, and they are very, very good. There's online chatting, online discussion, and various smaller groups which meet up frequently and that discuss such issues. But the difficult situation is putting it in place. Is the top layer of the organization, the the executive
Right,
level.
right,
They need to understand the importance of this. They
right.
need to understand why, because the person who is a clerk is as much as important as CEO when it comes to data protection. Or even a person who is doing the office cleaning services. Because don't forget, he or she could be keeping their eyes on the tables while
Yes,
they are cleaning,
yes,
sensitive documentation, information around. So this is the CEOs, the top, from top to bottom. I think awareness is very important, and constant update about what is happening. And I don't think what happens is, I've said, what I've experienced is the companies go into a panic mode rather than create a small group. That's what I always suggest. Create a small working group. Let them come up with suggestions. Let them do on a particular focus on these data issues. And don't burden an individual, because a work shared is work done proper.
excellent, excellent. Very good, sir. Thank you. But basically, I think the summary from you, if I can summarize that, leadership and commitment is the
Yeah.
key, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's this
Yeah.
cascading down the
Yes.
kind of, so establishing the required compliance management system in terms of policies,
Yeah.
processes, trainings, etc., is the need of the hour by the organization. Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, sir. Moving on further, just wanted to hear from you. I'm sure that this would really be interesting to so many,
Mm.
who is going to listen to this part. What would be the new business opportunity for the organizations and for the individuals from your perspective now? These kind of things. Is it creating a new wave for the kind of new roles and etc.?
I think, look, there is always if we are purely talking about Data Protection Act and the legislations which are going to come through in various parts, this is a new way of a new arena. There is an opportunity for various individuals, honestly, if they take it seriously. And let me give you my example, that hopefully will make others think about it. After working so many years in particular civil service, the reason I focused on this because I knew how important it was for me to carry on working it, because for the last 3 years, it's been challenging times for everybody. And but despite that, the challenges were overcome by using for example, online meetings, Zoom and
Right,
everything.
right.
Nothing has stopped. But what it has done, it has generated more work, and anybody who is trying to start up to do this consultancy work or any other, get a training, get a proper training, get understanding of the laws, focus on one particular area, and there are, don't worry about getting confused with shall I choose this or that. I think the generics of the Data Protection Act in every country, if you look at the 6 or 7 principles, are almost similar, but there could be local laws which are involved, and that is more important to focus on also at the same time. And there are various experts, people coming from legal background, people coming from their financial background, etc.
Very good. Excellent, sir. Excellent. I would go to that last question of today's discussion. Any message specific you would like to leave it to the audience as part of our IDPS 2022, sir?
I think IDPS 2022 is a good idea, and I have now been involved with FDPPI. When I first found out about FDPPI was through Mr. Navi. He was at an international platform conference, online, of course, during those time, some 2-3 years ago. And that was an interesting way of what his mission, his passion about it.
Right.
And that made me to think about it, not twice but just once, that I must join Mr. Navi's organization, because that was a focus, because he knows what he's talking
Yes,
about.
yes.
And very specifically when it comes to the Indian Data Protection Act and laws and everything else, and initially when I contacted him, it was great to see. And the beauty of it is expanded. FDPPI is expanded in such a way, getting all information from various people, experts coming, talking into the seminars, and now the conference itself,
Yeah.
So raising awareness is very, very important. And I think that's the best thing that FDPPI is doing.
Great, sir. Great. And looking forward to have you as part of IDPS 2222 also, and
Thank you.
continue your association with FDPPI. Would be more than grateful to you. Thanks once again for your valuable time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Looking
Thank
forward to
you to
having you.
you.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for giving the opportunity.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much.